Most of the time, if you go into YouTube and type in honey badger, all of the thumbnails are the worst photoshops you'll ever see, and it will link you to some really poor quality video of a honey badger. But I'm glad you clicked this one because I'm going to go into a lot more detail for you today. And yes, I know I'm not one of those clickbait channels that has a honey badger tearing something apart for the video only not to be that, and you're probably not going to get that here either. However, what I will give you is some knowledge. Knowledge of how absolutely terrifying a honey badger actually is. Hello! Welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and if we're talking about pretty much the most dangerous animals in the entire animal kingdom, no list is complete without the honey badger. Most of the time, if you go onto YouTube and type in honey badger, you will see an entire list of videos with the single worst Photoshop you'll ever see on many of these videos. Of course, pretty much every single one of them is clickbait. Now, folks, I don't want you to think that you're going to miss out by watching this video instead, so just to show you that I can also do the same, here is my attempt at a botched honey badger Photoshop, so that should give you a good idea of what we're talking about today. The animal with an almost legendary level of danger and fear, and anyone that has ever come face to face with a honey badger will know that they are not to be trifled with. If it was me naming this thing, I would have called it the Badger of Death, but for some reason the honey badger was the name that was given. So where do we find this animal? Well, the honey badger is known to be native to Africa, Southeast Asia and India. Strangely enough, the animal is related more closely to that of a weasel than it is an actual badger, despite it being called a honey badger. Whilst research into honey badgers has been a long-going thing and we're learning new things every single day, something that humans have known for a long time about honey badgers is that they are incredibly dangerous, mainly because these feisty little animals will go toe-to-toe with pretty much anything they can find, and that includes many animals which would straight up kill a human if they got into contact with them. One example is the puff adder, a highly venomous snake, but to the honey badger, it's that night's meal. Despite knowing the risks posed by the puff adder, the honey badger just doesn't give a fuck and goes in for the kill. If it's hungry enough, it will go in to secure the meal. I was actually watching a National Geographic Channel video on this, and there's a moment where a honey badger gets into a scrap with a puff adder, and in the course of trying to kill the adder, it manages to bite the honey badger on the cheek, which might sting a little bit, but like I said, they are highly venomous animals. The honey badger won the battle, but the war is not over, mainly due to the fact that there is now venom pumping through the blood and the veins of the honey badger, which, any normal animal might die very quickly as a result of this. You would think that it would only be a matter of time until the honey badger succumbed to the worst. So instead, what it decides to do is it lies on the ground for upwards of 2 hours, only to then get back up again like nothing had happened and carries on with its day. And the crazy thing about this is, we know how dangerous these puff adders are, so the fact that a honey badger can just lump this is crazy. Normally, this bite can kill in most cases, as it works to paralyze the muscles and breaks down the tissue, and it can even make the victim bleed uncontrollably. But for the honey badger, no. Daniel Drabek from the University of Minnesota wanted to investigate this further on a molecular level to find out exactly what happens. She said that the hardest part of all of this was to try and get a tissue sample from a honey badger, because, honey badgers are incredibly dangerous. Anyway, so what they decided to do in the end was get a blood sample from a honey badger from San Diego Zoo, and they did tests on that to find out at a molecular level what happened and why the honey badger is very likely able to survive this. What makes the honey badger a genetic badass? Venom from a snake has more than 100 different proteins and molecules which makes up this poisonous concoction, meaning that there needs to be multiple lines of defense for the honey badger. One particular defense the honey badger focuses on is a molecule in the venom called alpha neurotoxins that paralyze muscles, specifically the muscles for breathing. So it's imperative that if anything in the body keeps working after paralysis, it's these muscles. The toxin looks to park itself in the receptor cells, and to avoid this in these vital muscles. the receptors start changing in order for them to be effectively not recognised by the toxins. This is absolutely brilliant, and what normally happens is every time the body discovers a new mutation of this venom, it will change very slightly to make sure that these receptors for the vital organs is in good working order. So despite how paralysed the honey badger gets, the blood and the heart will always keep pumping, meaning that even if the honey badger can't move, it's still alive. What's amazing about this is that this line of defence has developed independently in many different animals, such as pigs, hedgehogs, mongooses, which means that these snakes have to be even more effective and they have to try and develop themselves to try and be one step ahead of the competition. However, the honey badger is always one step ahead. It's basically like some sort of biological arms race, except it's a honey badger and a puff adder. I could go into the science a bit further and how humans are using this to figure out effective antivenoms for snake bites, but honestly, it ain't gonna matter much when the world gets overrun by ravenous honey badgers. And that's the reason we're here, not to talk about snake poison, but the public service announcement of why the honey badger is not to be fucked with. Snakes aren't the only animals that have to be worried about the honey badger, as they are very well known to punch above their weight and pretty much fight anything that gets in their way. And that includes the king of the animal kingdom itself, a lion. Yes, a bloody lion has trouble fighting a honey badger, mainly because they are known to be incredibly territorial. So if you wander into their space, you're going to know about it. You'll see this from a whole host of compilations online of a lion getting in the way of a honey badger and realising very quickly that despite its size, they are not to be messed with. And one of the most terrifying things about a honey badger, which, gentlemen, for those of you listening, I need you to prepare yourselves. They are very well known to tear your bollocks off and eat them. And then once that happens, you'll bleed to death. Yeah, it's not a good way to go. Yep, it's true. Antelope have been found to have met this gruesome end, which adds to the legend of the killer badger. If a lion saw a honey badger approach, I'd imagine it would be getting away as quickly as it possibly could. Because, to be perfectly honest, their nuts are much better served attached to them than they are with a honey badger. I mean, even looking at a honey badger, you can tell that with its big stocky build, its large shoulders, thick neck and massive skull, that these things would very easily get into a scrap if they wanted to. And if anyone was to get too close to a honey badger, or they may feel threatened for whatever reason, they will let out a large, high-pitched growl, and in addition, they will let out some anal secretion, basically stink, to warn people to stay the hell away. So yes, if you ever find a honey badger in the wild, there's three things you can expect. 1, the fact that they'll probably growl and fart at you. 2, that they are very territorial. And 3, if you get too close, they'll probably tear your nuts off. God, I am so glad that these things don't exist in the UK. I'd be terrified to even go outside. So, how did this animal get its name? And with everything we've talked about, why aren't they called the nutcracker badgers? Well, they do eat honey and they are known very well for their raids of beehives. They are very well suited to do this. And it is even thought that the secretion they make is primarily used to keep the bees away and to effectively fumigate a hive whilst they chow down on that delicious honey. This effectively destroys the hive and the honey badger just doesn't give a fuck. Not in the slightest. If Winnie the Pooh was a honey badger, this would be a very different story. The other thing that makes a honey badger quite dangerous is that they will eat pretty much anything. Reptiles, amphibians, mammals, birds, pretty much anything that will fit in their mouth, they will probably eat it. And every time a honey badger comes face to face with, say, a snake or a scorpion, which is normally known to be quite dangerous, the honey badger can take them out with ease. All of these factors make the honey badger one of the most fearsome animals there is, and if you were to pit it against anything else in the animal kingdom, my money is on the honey badger. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas for what topics you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. You know what, come to think of it, you always see houses where they've got signs outside that says, "Guard dog, beware, to try and get people to not come near their house. Well, that's all well and good, but if you had one that instead said, beware of the nut-ripping honey badger, I can almost guarantee that you will get no one entering your property, because nobody wants that to happen to them. Just saying. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic!